I own a musket for home defense, since that's what the founding fathers intended. 4 ruffians break into my house, the devil! As I grab my powdered wig and Kentucky rifle, blow a golf ball-sized hole through the first man, he's dead on the spot. Draw my pistol on the second man, misses him entirely because it's smoothbore and nails the neighbor's dog. I have to resort to the cannon mounted at the top of the stairs, loaded with grape shot. Tally-ho, lad! Grape shot shreds 2 men in the blast. The sound and extra shrapnel set off car alarms. Fix bayonet and charge the last terrified rapscallion. Bleeds out, waiting on the police to arrive, since triangular bayonet wounds are impossible to stitch up. Ah, just as the founding fathers intended.
What is happening, friends? So only if we could show that to every lefty with cognitive dissonance and explain to them why it's important that we be armed. I am already losing major frames, so it may not work out the way I want it to. But I don't know how long I'm going to be able to talk tonight anyway, to be honest with y'all, the way my mouth's feeling. But I want to at least go through this, because I found this morning. And I know that I can play this and it will actually let me play it on YouTube. And since I hadn't uploaded any videos to YouTube in a while, this is what we're going to do.
Avery says last Friday you took the afternoon off.
What we're going to do is I'm going to play this video. It's about 15 minutes long. And I'm going to pause it as needed to add commentary.
He figures you might have been with another woman. The death of love and trust. Imagine her one day opening that. Go ahead, take a look. Not just screwing, Mitch. The kind of intimate acts, oral and whatnot, that could be particularly hard for a trusting young wife to forgive and impossible to forget. Devastating.
Seamus, welcome to the show, and Happy New Year.
Wow, Benny, that was an epic beginning to your show. Loved it. God bless you for covering this important issue. This is some serious stuff. Happy New Year. Glad to be with you. Everybody, I'm sure, is glad you're back, and thank you for having me.
So you have written this book. I actually have a copy in my home, brought to me by a mutual friend of ours, Kurt, and it is fascinating. You do a very authoritative deep dive into the oligarchy that runs this nation, and an oligarchy that is utterly caught up in a scandal right now that they are so desperately trying to capture, kill, suffocate, and destroy. This Epstein scandal. But you dive a lot farther into it, saying that there are lists that exist. We haven't even scratched the surface here. Can you expound?
Sure. So for those who don't know me, I work with a gentleman, Peter Schweitzer. We did books like Clinton Cash and Secret Empires, exposing the Clintons, the Bidens. I did a book, Compromised, How Money and Politics Drive FBI Corruption. And our motto is to follow the money. And so for the Clintons, we followed it to the Clinton Foundation. To the Bidens, we followed it to Burisma and to the China energy deals. For the Compromised book, I followed the money to the top of the FBI and James Comey, Robert Mueller. And for this book, Control Oligarchs, decided to follow it even further all the way to the top. A lot of us have this feeling that the politicians are really sort of puppets. I mean, a lot of people, you don't think that Joe Biden's making all the decisions, and he's not. And so for this book, I followed it to Davos, to people like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. And naturally, there's big Epstein connections to all of these people at the top.
So where is the real Epstein list? And like, more importantly, who's hiding this? as you just detailed, you've gone really deep into the FBI. The FBI went really deep into capturing all of Jeffrey Epstein's assets.
Now, I want y'all to keep in mind as we go over this, there's a reason why they haven't found Trump on anything. And if someone wanted to take just a couple of minutes of research, it's not hard to figure out. Trump used to work with the FBI. Trump used to work with all the intelligence agencies. Look at, all the crap that he done with the casinos and everything, trying to bring people down. This ain't nothing new, y'all.
And refused to even give those over. We found this out in some of the document drops to the victims. Why would you hide that from the victims? Presumably Jeffrey Epstein had information and videotape of the victims. You'd assume that they would at the very least have a right to that. What's the FBI's culpability here?
Total. The FBI is the number one place who can tell us who Jeffrey Epstein's clients are. They are the agency that has failed to prosecute. These are Mann Act violations, transporting especially underage women, but women of any kind for prostitution purposes across state lines, outside of the U.S. to the island. The FBI knows everything. They have all the documents. They have all of the tapes, all of the blackmail tapes. I mean, we know that Jeffrey Epstein's properties were wired up like Christmas trees. And we know that the FBI raided those properties, stole those tapes. You showed the photos before. There was a giant safe, like a vault, that held all the blackmail materials. And so the FBI is in possession of all of that. Now, there's another agency, and I talk about this in the book, that has the information on Epstein's clients. That would be the Treasury Department, because like I said, following the money is critical here for these Epstein crimes. How did he get paid? Who paid him? How much did they pay him? Now, we know that he banked with a bank, JP Morgan, the largest bank, most powerful bank in the United States, probably, certainly up there. And so Jeffrey Epstein was a client with JP Morgan for.
See, as y'all already know, and as we've already known, they're all in on it. And after my show ends, we're going to watch an episode of Woo's News that he put up. I got his permission to watch it. He's going to be on the show sometime in the next couple of months. He went frame by frame and broke down January 6th. And one issue that our side falls into a lot, and it's a tactic that comes straight out of The Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. And that movie, see, yeah, I don't know how many of y'all realize it, but if y'all think that I just randomly play stuff on my channel, you got me twisted. So, Thank You for Smoking, the movie that we've watched a couple of times. He brings up a good point in it. At one point, he's talking to his son about being a lobbyist. And he said, he's trying to explain to him how to win a debate. And they were talking about how chocolate ice cream versus vanilla ice cream. And he says, he's trying to explain to his son, how he works when he debates. And his son said, yep, I like chocolate. Chocolate's the best flavor. There's no other flavor for me. And then the dad says, okay, well, what if my response is, well, don't you like strawberry? Don't you like peanut butter? I think that the world needs something besides just chocolate, and that it should be everyone's right to be able to eat something besides chocolate. And the son says, but that wasn't the argument. And he says, I know, but all I had to do was prove that you were wrong. If you were wrong, I'm automatically right. And we see stuff like that put in front of us all the time. And a lot of people in the conservative sphere, they want to question everything. They want to read into everything until you see something that might cause them to question their beliefs. And then more times than not, That's when you see that move that come out of the Saul Alinsky playbook played, and they're like, oh, well, if you don't like Trump, then you must be a Democrat, or you must like Biden, or you must be a communist. Just like, oh, well, if you don't support Israel, you support Palestine. It's not always one side or the other. We've got to keep in mind the fact that both sides can suck. And at this point in time, both sides do suck. We have been played against each other for so long, and the indoctrination, the programming has all run so deep that even many of us that think that we're awake have no clue what's going on, and it's sad. I was duped into that category for a long time, and thank God I'm finally seeing through it. But we're going to cut it back on. I just had to stop that for a second.
For a long time, over a decade, 16 years that he worked with JP Morgan. And JP Morgan facilitated the payments for the prostitution. We know that from court records. Now, in 2022, JP Morgan was sued by Jeffrey Epstein's victim.
Pause it one more time while I'm thinking about it. All right, the next thing. These banks and all these people that are in on all this, they're helping to facilitate the blackmail. Because, see, we've put a lot of weight on the pedo stuff, and don't get me wrong, it's bad. But we have to remember they're not just doing that because they're perverts. There's more to it. It's deeper than that. Number one, ritualistic crap. They believe that when they take advantage of minors, for one, that they're able to get their life from them. That is part of what helps them live longer. Number two, it is happening for blackmail, being facilitated for blackmail. You see people like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's been under their thumb for who knows how long. And people are like, oh, well, if there's this big conspiracy, then why hasn't somebody told about it? Just because it's a big conspiracy don't even mean that all of them know what their role is. Some of them are just doing what they're told because they don't want whatever information is had on them to come out. Look at, all right, you got people like, what's that cripple fella's name? Oh, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking liked to go to Epstein's Island, they said. Said he liked midgets. If you wanted to control science and, stuff like that, what better way than to get a quote-unquote scientist under your thumb? The Rockefellers have had control of the medical industry since the early 1900s. And we think that we are progressing as a civilization, but I'm 32 years old, and when I was a kid, most old people that I knew lived to be in their 80s and 90s. That was at best 20, 25 years ago. And we're supposed to be so far advanced as a civilization, so far advanced in science and medical, but most old people I know ain't making it past 70 now. Come on, bro. Play games with me. I got a picture I'm going to show y'all. There's this old woman, and they asked her, hold on, I'm just going to pull it up. All right, now. Apparently I didn't move it over. I'm going to cut the video back on, and I'll show the picture to you when I pause it again, because I know I'm going to pause it again. I'm going to cut the video on, though, while I move it over from my phone.
They said that the bank helped Jeffrey Epstein, facilitated the prostitution payments. Well, in order to avoid going to trial, JP Morgan just this past year in 2023 paid a massive settlement. I mean, they paid a combined $365 million settlement. That's a huge settlement to avoid going to trial. Now, why would they want to avoid going to trial? Because they facilitated $1 billion worth of payments that have been linked to, quote, human trafficking. And so we found out in the trial, they've turned over this information to the Treasury Department, so that now we've got 3 people who we know for sure know who Jeffrey Epstein's clients are. That's the FBI. Then there's the Treasury Department, who got the JP Morgan bank transfers. And then JP Morgan knows who the clients are. And so JP Morgan needs to come clean on all of this, and they should release the names of the clients who paid Jeffrey Epstein for trafficking.
So where did the money come from? Like you just said, $1 billion facilitated to the trafficking of these young women that Epstein paid. How did Jeffrey Epstein become a billionaire? Where's this money coming from? This is like, again, as somebody who I'm certainly not a wealthy man, nor do I come from wealth. But you end up in these political circles brushing shoulders with big time donors and stuff like that. And some of them do have $1 billion. They don't have private islands, the most expensive house in New York, the most expensive house in London, entire counties for a ranch in New Mexico. They don't have jets the size of Jeffrey Epstein. Where the hell did all this money come from? What was the product he was selling?
Yeah, that's a critical question. I mean, it reminds you of the Bidens. What product are they selling to pull in all of this money? And so for Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, it's a lot more money than the Bidens. It's $1 billion plus. And so he's hanging around. I mean, I'm not going to accuse anyone of pedophilia without evidence here, but he is hanging out with the richest, most powerful people in the world. Everyone knows that. People like Bill Gates and actually Sergey Brin, the head of Google, was advised by Jeffrey Epstein. Leon Black of Apollo Global Management, one of the most wealthy and powerful firms on Wall Street. Leslie Wexner, the head of Victoria's Secret, was like the seed money investor in Jeffrey Epstein's investment fund. And he actually is the one who gave Epstein the most valuable property in Manhattan at one point, the townhouse where a lot of people visited, and Ehud Barak visited 30 times. And, all these people from all around the world, world leaders and ambassadors and many billionaires, that's who paid him. And the question, I mean, it's kind of the answer staring you in the face, but you can't accuse these people. They've all denied knowledge of any of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. And so that's where it comes back to the FBI. The FBI has the evidence, and JP Morgan has the evidence.
So JP Morgan has paid dearly. It seems like Ghislaine Maxwell will spend a considerable portion of the rest of her life in prison. Jeffrey Epstein was killed by Hillary in the cell when they flipped the cameras off. And the only people who seem to have not actually paid in full have been the clients of Jeffrey Epstein. When will that happen?
That's exact. Yeah, that's
Pause again. As we discussed before, I do not believe by no stretch of the imagination that Jeffrey Epstein's dead. I have an extremely hard time believing that, because you take somebody that knows what that man knew. Clearly he wasn't stupid, or they wouldn't have hired him. And he wouldn't have done what he done for that freaking long and got away with it if he was stupid. Hate the man all you want to, dislike the man all you want to, but stupid he is not. Okay, well, put yourself in his shoes. As nasty and as hard as that is to do, if I had all of this information on all of these powerful people, that automatically tells me I'm a target. If I know that I'm a target, I know that I'm screwing a lot of really powerful people over. The smart thing to do would be to have all of those videos and all of that information on some kind of a kill switch. I would have it set up to where if I didn't log in every day, if I didn't log in, at least once within a 24-hour period, it would release every bit of that shit. That's what I would do. And I'm no genius. I'm a chicken farmer. I'm not even a content creator. You know why I'm making content? Because I have found all kinds of crap out And I'm not going to name any names yet. We'll get there. But prime example, I knew Kanye was going to wig out and go full Nazi 2 weeks before it ever even happened. And had some people in the right-wing sphere that I thought were friends. Found out the hard way they weren't. Anytime I would come at them with real information, they would act really weird or they would ignore me. When any other time, we would talk on a fairly regular basis. Didn't think anything of it. And as things progressed, I finally got sick of it and was like, 3 or 4 times being right about something and just being ignored or thrown under the bus, you get sick of it. And I decided, I guess, that I just need to do the stuff on my own. So we've got Woos coming in a couple of weeks. We got Donnie Darkin coming in a couple of weeks. This was the picture I was going to show you. Oh, yeah, and the other thing with Epstein, if you're working with MI6, you're working with Mossad, you're working with the CIA, if anybody could come in and fake your death, who else do you think could frickin' do it, okay? And then you think about the fact that Epstein he had a ranch where he was trying to do some kind of a weird cloning program, trying to make his own race of kids or some crap. Wouldn't be hard for them to find someone with his DNA to kill him and make the autopsy, number one. Number two, if the CIA wanted to fake a death, they really wouldn't even have to have anybody with his DNA. They wouldn't even have to have a replacement body if we're going to bullshit about it, especially if both sides are in on it. Before I start the video back, I'm going to show y'all that picture I was telling you about. And I'll read it for the blind viewers. I remember watching a YouTube video about a feral lady who built her own home in nature and lived on her own, using fresh spring for water and cooking on the floor of her house, which looked beautiful. A guy was interviewing her and asked, "Isn't this inconvenient, though, to have to light a fire every day before you can even make tea?" She shot back at him, "Isn't it inconvenient for you to work 8 hours a day just so you don't have to light a fire?" I was shook. The lady knew what's up while we were still babies. Legendary savage. That would be such an awesome life to live and not have to worry about all the crap we have to worry about now. Don't forget what they took away from you, y'all.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's the real travesty of justice here, is because Jeffrey Epstein's gone, Ghislaine's locked away. But you've got all these people. I mean, it's the first time in history that someone's indicted or, charged and pled guilty to trafficking people to nobody. And it's the same thing with the bank transfers. I'll just keep going back to follow the money. Like, you can't receive money from no one. There is another party on the other end of that transfer to Jeffrey Epstein, and we need to know those names. They need to be charged.
Yeah, that's right. If there's an illegal arms deal, then you charge both entities. Right? There's the dealer, and then there's the people buying, and the dealer wouldn't have any. The dealer needs a customer. The customer is also committing a crime. It's all illegal, and so you sanction both of them, or you blow both of them. You go after both of them militarily, depending on what the trade is. Even if it's just a drug deal, the using of the drugs is also illegal. The drug dealer has no business unless there's a user, right? And maybe he creates the user. Through those practices. Either way, the user is a part of that transaction and deserves to also be charged in order to shut the entire thing down, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And there's actually another Clinton connection here. I mean, when Bill Clinton was president, his Department of Justice, it was Eric Holder, the Deputy Attorney General at the time, he basically set it up so that all of the big fish will never fry. Whether it's this or other huge scandals. If you wonder why the big fish never seem to get caught, they never seem to fry, it's because Eric Holder, when he was in the President Clinton administration, he drafted this memo that reigns supreme at DOJ to this day.
Now remember who Eric Holder is, Fast and the Furious?
It's called the Collateral Consequences Memo. And this memo, I mean, it cannot be overstated how bad this thing is. What it basically said, and it's the policy at the Justice Department, is if the collateral consequences, if the consequences of prosecuting someone have big ripple effects, and it can take down the system. I mean, you were talking about it earlier. The whole system, this could bring down the whole system. And so the collateral consequences memo that Eric Holder drafted says that if the consequences could bring down the system, it's best not to prosecute. And so you can bet that that memo is actually what prevents the DOJ in a lot of ways, saying, well, it's actually best that we sweep this under the rug. We'll give immunity agreements. You see this like when Hillary Clinton's emails come out and all of her staff have to testify against her. They give them immunity agreements, and everybody gets hit with an immunity agreement. And so the DOJ and the FBI, they find out what's going on. They gain the control and the leverage over people, but then they never prosecute. And so that memo needs to be thrown out so that we can really bring down the system in a lot of ways. The corrupt, rotten, decaying system.
I've heard of this. It's up on screen right now. I've heard of this. I need to go in harder on this memo. You're exactly right. Like what? So this was written during the Clinton era by Eric Holder. Remarkable. And then this, of course, applies to the Bidens. This, of course, applies to so the elites can do whatever they want. This literally is the protection of the elites, and they go after Donald Trump for literally not recycling his soda pop can, his can of Diet Coke, because he's not one of them. He didn't engage in these immoral practices. He wasn't part of the club. He helped he's the only guy who put Jeffrey Epstein in prison.
Once again, I firmly believe it's all for show. Trump, as we know, worked with the FBI and all of them for years. He was part of the entertainment industry. And you see, I was too blind to see it before, but you can see when he's doing the rallies and everything, even after the raid on Mar-a-Lago, you saw the classic, the same acting that you saw on, WWF or WWE, whichever, well, I didn't watch wrestling. But I've seen the clips. And it's the same stuff. Y'all forget he's an actor. And that's not to say that every individual that is in politics is in on it, but I would bet money that just about every one of them knows about it. But it's kind of like with the Masons. You've got your low level Masons that have no clue what's going on. So that when people ask, oh yeah, they don't do anything wrong. I would say it's kind of the same way in politics. They let a couple of people get in to kind of keep the illusion up, you know.
Right? You help the lawyer to put him in jail. And so that's why they go, there's no collateral consequences for going after Trump. That's what you can deduce from this.
Yeah, exactly right. It's basically during the Clinton administration, they wrote a perpetual, endless get out of jail free card for themselves with no expiration date. And yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is a threat to the system. So he must be.
If he was a threat to the system, we'd already seen people locked up, but
prosecuted. He must be taken out.
Wow.
He's like, get out of jail free.
Remember, you kept saying, we've got it all. We have it all. Why do you think they have it all?
Free card for themselves with no expiration date. And yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is a threat to the system. So he must be prosecuted. He must be taken out.
Wow.
He's like a virus, and the entire system is an immunity system. It's like an immune system attacking the virus. Not to call Donald Trump a virus, but it works like that. They are all, from the media to Hollywood to corporate America to both parties, they are attacking him with like relentless force because he's a threat to their system.
Incredible. Control Oligarchs, ladies and gentlemen. Control Oligarchs is the book. You should go pick up a copy today. It's spectacular. We have the link actually for the book right now. You can find it at controloligarchsbook.com. And kind of exposes the real power structures in the nation that deserve.
السيد عبد الملك بدر الدين الحسين السيد عبد الملك بدر الدين الحسين اللهم انا نبرأ اليك من اعدائك اللهم انا نبرأ اليك من اعدائك واعداء رسولك واعداء رسولك واعداء الامام علي واعداء الامام علي واعداء اوليائك واعداء اوليائك الله اكبر اللهم امريكا اللهم اسرائيل اللهم اليهود اللهم لبيك لبيك لبيك.
نعم مشاهدينا، كان هذا هو الولا من.
Alright, y'all see that? That, I'm trying to pull it up now so I can tell y'all the... I'm sorry, my internet's really slow. Alright, what you were seeing, and I'm going to pull it back up and cut the sound off.
هنا من داخل السفينة.
Bottle and fill it up halfway with black.
Ha! Alright. So that is Houthis on the coast of Yemen performing the Nazi salute as they yell, "Curse the Jews." They attacked a U.S.-owned container ship with ballistic missiles earlier today in the Red Sea. One of the things that we're seeing right now is anti-Semitism. Major rise in anti-Semitism. Alright, and the Bible tells you that this is going to happen. Because it talks about how the beast is going to get mad at the harlot and throw the harlot off. Well, who do you think the harlot is? Israel's been playing the harlot for a long time. And one of the ways that Israel got, like, quote-unquote, Jews got subverted is you go back to Solomon, King Solomon. Most of us have heard the stories of King Solomon using demons to build the temple. And, having control, having power over demons. Solomon's seal, yada, yada, yada. The 6-point star is not the Star of David, it's the Star of Remphan. And if you want to hear more about what we're about to talk about, you will have to tune in on Peeled.